Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa Lewis. I'm a realtor here in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Today is part 3 of a video interview where my friend is interviewing me so my clients can get to know me a little bit better. If you like the content on my channel, please click like and subscribe. So after like the 4th round of layoffs, I get laid off. I get my, I guess they call it a pink slip. I get my pink slip, and then I decide I'm going to go back to, Florida where my mom and dad are because the relationship didn't work out.
Okay.
I was on my own and the job didn't work out, obviously. So I was like, let me just, go back home.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did because my dad actually only had like maybe a year left to live, before he had hypertension, heart disease, and had a major heart attack. And so I got to spend that time, getting back into college and then spending time with my parents here in, Miami. I was living with my sister, though, in Royal Palm Beach, Loxahatchee. So her and her husband and their 4 children, she just made room for me. She moved her son.
Your older sister.
Yeah, she moved her oldest son into to the room with her youngest son. And they, shared a room so that she could make room for me. And it was just amazing. So I stayed there for a year. I couldn't find a job anywhere. So I ended up volunteering at a horse farm, shoveling, and feeding horses and, taking care of abused horses.
Wow.
And
right there in Royal Palm.
It's, yeah, it was out a little ways, but I ended up doing that because I don't like sitting idle, doing nothing. So I was
You're willing to do anything. I mean, you're willing
I was
to
even
work.
like not getting paid, but
wow.
I was collecting unemployment, and that's how I was able to make my car payment. And basically the only job I could find was a volunteer position where I wasn't getting paid anything. And then one day my vehicle started leaking water in the back. I had a Toyota RAV4 SUV and water started dripping into the back where the back door opens and closes. And so I had to take it in for service, and the guy that was driving me to get my rental car drove me past the Jaguar dealership.
Okay.
And I looked through the window and I saw all the Aston Martins in there, and I said, oh my God, I want to work there. I'm like, I want one of those cars. I want to work there. So anyways, long story short, he says, well, they're hiring. We'll take you in there after you get your rental car. And so we go, I have a baseball cap on, a t-shirt. I'm not even ready for an interview. I go in and I get a job as a porter. Okay. So here making $70,000. You know how much a porter makes an hour? Like at the time, I think it was like $7 an hour.
Oh.
I'm going to work my way up. So I was a porter, a service porter, and I would pray every time I got in one of those cars. My job was to get the mileage and get the VIN number and bring it to the service advisor. And then drive the car to the back, and it's like a very tight area, so that the mechanics could work on it. And I would hang the key on the board, and then the technicians would go take the car and bring it in, and they would work on the car.
So you drove all the cars?
I drove all the cars, but I had to be very careful because these are Jaguars. That's the way they pronounce it.
Jaguars?
Jaguar.
Really?
Jaguar. And then they were Aston Martins. I didn't drive, I don't know if I drove very many Aston Martins. I think there was like certain porters for that, eventually
did you end up getting
I did.
your Jaguar?
I did. I ended up getting one, a 2017.
Wow.
It was brand new. Was it 17? I don't know. But anyways, I did, and it was the XF, and it was so sporty. It was a deep purple color. They called it caviar. It was beautiful. And I had the
outside of it?
I had a chrome grille put on the front and chrome put on the mirrors, and it was gorgeous. I still have pictures of it. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I think my neighbor is driving a Jaguar. I don't know if this is a thing, but I was like, how's your Porsche doing? She almost like got offended. So, I don't know.
They do have a different suspension.
I'm just in a Hyundai.
They do have a different suspension. So anyways, I'll tell you what happened was, so I almost didn't get the job because the guy didn't want I don't know if I could say this on tape, but he didn't want a woman working in the service department, honestly. So I go in to get the job, and he acted like he wasn't going to hire me. And here I am applying for a job that pays way less than, I mean, it's basically minimum wage than what I was used to being paid. But I didn't tell him that. I didn't tell him what, what I knew or where I was coming from. And I didn't even have my resume on me because I was just getting my rental car, so he didn't know anything about me. So I do the application, I fill it out, and I think that I ended up doing like a drug test for them. I know I did. I did a drug test for them, and it was the confrontation. It was a confrontation basically, where I can't remember. I ended up taking my driver's license out.
Confrontation is like in a physical confrontation? What are you talking about?
Like a verbal.
Oh.
Like I could tell he didn't want to hire a woman. And so I took my driver's license and I slapped it on the desk. And it slid over to him and he slapped his hand on it. And I stood up and I said, I don't know you and you don't know me. I said, but I'm taking a huge pay cut to just drive cars from the front to the back. So I said, I can do this job. I mean, I really had to fight to get the job, to get this porter job. It was just a porter job. But I had to fight to get, I mean, I would have thought I would have had to fight harder to get the technical support engineer or the network operations engineer job. But this was just driving cars from the front to the back. It was really crazy. So he stood up, and he was a tall guy, and he said, you're right, I don't know you, and you don't know me. And, so I forget what he said after that, because you know how when you go red, you just don't hear anything after that? So I said, he said, when I get the drug test back, I said, well, you should get it back within a few days, and you're not going to find anything in my system, and I just left. So he ended up calling me, ended up hiring me, and I worked as a service porter for about a year, but it wasn't long before I started getting really annoyed with the paychecks because I couldn't pay. At some point, you have to get off of unemployment, right? So unemployment's not paying my car payment. Neither is my job because I'm getting minimum wage. So I would take my check, and there was a service advisor there, and he was like the boss on the service aisle. And I took my check one day, and I was so frustrated. I took it and I threw it at him. I threw it like up in the air. And I said, I can't even buy toilet paper with this. Oh. So I was so upset. I was like, I can't do anything with this. I said, what do you want me to do with this? I said, I can't be a service porter anymore. I have to move on. I got to move up. And they kept telling me to wait. And I kept applying for service advisor position. And they kept interviewing other men that would come in off the street.
At this point, do you let them know your resume that you had this technical? No. Really? No. Why is that, Miss Melissa? I'm just wondering.
I don't think my resume would have had anything to do with it, but it turns out that it did because it turns out all the cars were computer related anyways. ECU, the TCU, transmission control unit, engine control module, TCM, ECM. There was so many components on the car that were all computerized that it ended up having a lot to do with it. But I didn't think it did because I really didn't know.
Sounds like a different language.
Really, the only thing I knew was I changed my oil. My dad showed me how to change my oil, and so I would drive it up on the ramps and change my oil when I was 18, 19 years old. I changed a tire before, and I changed an engine plug, because I wanted to go to South Beach and go partying, and it was leaking oil. And at the time, my boyfriend wouldn't do it for me because he didn't want me to go partying at South Beach. So I ended up borrowed a tool from a neighbor and ended up replacing it. I don't remember. Someone showed me where it was, and the rest
sounds like your diligence to get this job.
Yeah.
And I could almost predict that you possibly moved up.
I did.
Okay.
So,
you're diligent.
There was a fight. So the president of the company, the owner of the company, Robert Simpson, I talked to him. I told him that I was leaving. I said, they're not hiring me. They're looking over me. The service director is looking over me. He's not hiring me. And so I said, I have to leave. I can't stay here because I can't continue to maintain. I need more money. So I left. I left and I went to Acura for a little while, and I absolutely couldn't stand it. I was fighting with the other service advisors. I mean, like, we were literally fighting because they saw that I wanted to progress and like get to know the new car, because it's a totally different car, and they were trying to push me down, and I got really
Are these more men?
more, yeah. It was all.
So it seems like a male.
It was an all male dominated
industry,
yeah, for sure. And so I went to the service director there, Bernie Wazak, who's no longer alive, and he and I went toe to toe, face to face, nose to nose, and I said, I'm quitting because your service manager is, a big jerk. And he said, no, you're not leaving, you're staying here. And I cried and I said, no, I'm leaving. And I left, and I, went home, and I said, what am I going to do now? So I called the owner at Jaguar, and I said, to Robert Simpson, and I said, listen, I said, I'm no longer working at Acura, and I need my job back. I said, but I want to be a service advisor. I don't want to be a service porter anymore. And he said, Melissa, I understand your position, and I understand where you're at. He says, but the service director has say-so over that department, and we have to wait until the time is right to get you in there. And he says, you just have to be patient. So he hired me back and put me in a position
at Jaguar?
At Jaguar. Put me in a position right next to his office upstairs in the showroom. So on the second floor next to his office, and basically I was, doing accounting for them. And accounting bored me out. I was, bored to tears with that job. And then finally, I pushed my way. I don't even remember how I pushed my way into them allowing me to try it out as a service advisor. And let me tell you, I flew under the radar the entire time. I worked my tail off to get to know the cars inside and out, up and down. I mean, I was studying tech notes on my computer when, during, if I wasn't on a phone call, I was in the morning prepping myself, studying tech notes.
You were diligent in finding out everything about every position you've ever had, and working hard at it.
Yeah. And so I stayed in the business for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went from Jaguar, I worked there for 10 years, and then I went to Mercedes-Benz for 8 years. And I was a service advisor there as well.
So did you end up being a service advisor at Jaguar?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
Yes,
okay, good.
Yeah. And I ended up.
So you didn't ever want to go into sales?
I tried. I didn't like sitting there fishing for the sale. I liked the clients coming in. I liked the constant client coming in, and I love that they're loyal. The loyalty of every client that would come in. They're, oh, Melissa, my car, and some of them would even just give me their credit card. Put my credit card on file, and if it's anything more than $10,000, just give me a call and let me know. So I felt a little, weird about that, but they were demanding. They have jobs.
They trusted you.
Well, they trusted me, yeah,
and
but
they trusted the company.
They just didn't have time for phone calls. Like, hey, this is going to be 7,000, this is going to be 8,000, or maybe it was only 1,000. I know I'm talking higher numbers here, but these cars. Some of these people had cars that were 20 years old, and 20 years old requires a lot more work, and so
that's very loyal.
I'm not trying to freak anybody out with numbers or anything like that, but this particular client had a lot of cars, and there were different ages.
So you were in Mercedes for 8 years, so a total of 18 years in the car industry. Okay, and that's kind of where I know you is she's helped me out a lot when I've had car issues. Melissa's been kind enough to even come with me to some of these places.
I did. I even walked into the shop. I'm pointing at stuff.
Yeah.
I told the technician, lift the car up.
Because she knew what she was talking about. And I'm like, I've never met a girl who knew more about cars than the guys.
Oh my God.
So that was a very helpful skill.
Yeah.
And that was Melissa.
Thank you.
She was able to come alongside me and help me when I was having some car issues. And to this day, I still have the car that I thought I was going to have to get rid of. But anyway, thank you, Melissa, for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. So so here we are now, 2024, and
And now I have my real estate license.
Yeah, so tell me, how long have you been in real estate?
Well, that's all we have time for today. Please click on like and subscribe if you find the content helpful. And join us tomorrow for the rest of the interview. Thanks.